Alright, so today I'm going to talk about the incredible power that Bricks gives you by having direct access to DOM elements through the editor. It's not until you start using it and seeing how incredibly powerful it is and how flexible it is until you really appreciate what the guys at Bricks have done here. Now, what's really impressed me is the fact that you can basically create anything that you can create in HTML, you can create in the Bricks builder. And I'm going to delete all this and then just show you how I've created this. So in the first example here, I've got a simple UL. So if we look at the HTML for this, actually I'm going to jump over and have a look at that. If we look at the HTML for this list, you can see how simple it is. So what we have here is a UL with an LI, and then we've got a button. Okay, another LI, and then a button. If we have a look at this table, we've got a simple HTML table, table head, rows, table headers, cells, a table body, rows with table data cells. Now, that's basically straight HTML, where you could actually just put a editor on the page. So for example, I could add a rich text editor. I could add that on the page, go in there and into my content, and I can type HTML directly in here. So I could do my table. So I can do my table HTML right in there. Now, you can do that, and sometimes it makes sense to do that if you just want a very, very simple HTML table. So by doing it this way, you've got complete control over that table from the UI. Now, it doesn't make sense yet, but if you look at over here, here's our structure. So let's look at our first demo, which is the section, container. Here's my UL list demo. So this is the heading. Here's my UL. Now, that there, all I've done is got a div, dragged it onto the editor, and then in that div, I've told that the element I want it to put on the DOM is a UL, not a div. I then go underneath that and I put an LI on the DOM. I then go underneath that and I put a button. That could be anything you like. I'm going to show you how powerful that is, apart from just being able to do this in the UI, what benefit this actually gives you. And there's so much, it's incredible. I'm going to delete all of this content, and I'm going to start from scratch here. Now, I've already created some classes, but that's okay. So the first thing we'll do is just to add an element to the page. I'm just getting in a section on the page, and we'll just call this my list demo. Okay, I've just got a standard section with a container. So I'm just going to do the list element first. So what I'm going to grab is a div, stick it inside the container, call that my UL, and I'm going to tell it I want it to be a custom tag, I want it to be a UL. I'm then going to just duplicate this, drag it underneath the UL so it's in the correct hierarchy. I'm going to make that my LI, and I'm going to tell that it's an LI. I'm just going to grab a button and drag that underneath the LI. And there's my first button. So I can now duplicate that, and I've got another item. I duplicate it again, and I've got another list item. Right now they're butting up against each other. So here's the first thing. You can control every one of these by just going into the UL and clicking on those. But here's the first benefit of doing this. Instead of going into a code block and trying to find the LI in the editor, all you do is you name these properly. You can go into your structure and go directly to that button or to that LI or whatever you want. So you can do whatever you want with this list. Now, let's say I want to put an icon on that. So I'll just go to my icons and grab an icon, and I'll stick that in front of the button. Now, it's not going to line up properly because of the flex on this. Let's style that. Let's make it a typography of, oops, not the color, font size of, say, I don't know, 15px. All right, now it's next to the button. So it's lining up next to the button now. All right, so we'll put it in front of the button. There it is in front of the button. Okay, now they're not lining up properly, so let's go to our UL, and I've already created a BEM class, which I call UI block. And in that class, if I don't think I've actually set any properties, let's have a look. I haven't. Okay, so if we go to the li, I've got an li BEM class I've created there. So there's my li element. And if I go to my style, in my layout, I've just told it I want the top margin to be 10 pixels. All right. So each of these LIs, if I add the li BEM class, they've all got the 10 pixel class here, right? Now, let's say I want to get rid of this disk on there. Now, there is nothing in the UI for bricks to do that, but if I go back to my top level UL, it is just straight CSS. So I just go to my CSS and I target the root. So in bricks, root is the element that you're on, so it's going to target the actual ID and class name of that element. I'm going to set that root. And also just a reminder, making sure that you've got your class highlighted, so you're applying this to the class, not to the single individual element. And I'm going to go list, it's none, no list style, okay? And maybe we'll set the padding here because we're in here. We could also do that through the UI. So let's see the padding of 0, so it pushes it back to the left. And there we go. So just by changing the class on our UL here, on the UL block, we've affected that UI there, UL there. All right, so styling wise, standard bricks classes and standard bricks CSS, and it affects every single one of these. So there's the first benefit of it. All right. The next benefit of doing this is the ability to use the loop builder. So if I go into, and this is the really cool thing, you can do anything you like. I want to have a list of buttons that link to my posts, for example. So I'm going to grab all of these and get rid of them, except for the first one. And I'm going to turn this li into a query loop using my posts, and the post type is post, which is default anyway. And let's say I want 10 of those. Now in my button, I'm going to change the dynamic field for that to be my post title. And in my link type, I'm going to go to dynamic, and it's going to be the link. Here we go, post link. So now I've got buttons that link to all of my posts. I'm just going to save that and have a look. Here we go. If I click on that, there's a post. This is just done from FakerPress. So how simple is that to create a list of buttons that link off to your posts? One div, which is a UL, one div, which is an li, which is a query loop, and a button. Don't want a button, we just want a list of names, so we just add a title. Make it a heading title that's there, and we're going to set the dynamic data on that to be the post name. Post name, post name, post title, and we'll set the link type to be dynamic and select our post link. And maybe with that, we're going to tag, make that say an H4, smaller. Save that. And view on the front end, and there's our list of links to post types. The post, I should say. So incredibly powerful. You can create anything you want in the Bricks Builder. So that's just a straight out UL. Let's look at something a little bit more complex. Let's look at a table. So if I go into my table, so I'm going to create another container. I'm going to make this a table example. So I'm going to grab a div, chuck it into my container here. I'm going to call that my table. And you guessed it, we're going to say custom. And we want that to be a table. Okay. I've already created a block for this. I'm going to call this table. So up here, I've created a BEM block. As you type this in Bricks, it automatically creates it for you. So we're going to do the table block for the table. You can drag and drop. I just simply duplicate and make that my table head. So T head. Oops. Okay, and we make that a T head. Duplicate it again. Drag it in. TR. And you guessed it, it's a TR. And we're going to put two headers in here. Got a TH and a TH. And let's just grab a, actually let's do this from here. Let's grab a heading, stick it in there, make that a name, and make it nice and small. Make that an H4 again. Okay, so we've got that. Now, we're going to duplicate that and give this a name. I'm going to call that excerpt. Okay, so we've got a name and an excerpt for our post. So we're going to come back to these. So T head is got our table block, which we don't want. We want that to be the T head. So block, table block, T head, which I spelled incorrectly. So I'm going to just update that. Once you get used to this, it's so quick to work your way around. TR, we don't want that to be a table block. And these are here because I copied or duplicated those. We want this to be a TR, that to be a TH. I want this one here to be a TH as well. Okay. So we've got some classes here, and automatically you can see I've got some styling here, and that's because I've already applied those to those classes, which we'll come back to. So you can see this changing down here. Now here's the easy way to do this. I'm going to do a T body, but it's going to be a similar structure, so I'm just going to duplicate that. I call that my T body. Head over to the classes and change that to a table body. That's my table block body. It's still a TR. That's no longer a TH, so a TD. Back to the TD. Go to the TH, TD. Okay, so we've got a structure there. What we don't have in here, I think I've still got that as a TH I have. So now you can see it's changing there. Change that table there to a TD. All right, so we've got our basic structure here. So if I view this, have a look at what we've just created. Apart from all this Bricks preview stuff here, we've got a, actually let's go right out of there so we can see what it's actually created. So what we've got is a table with a T head, table row, two TH cells, that's still a T head, that should not be a T head. When you rush through these things, you tend to make mistakes like that. So that's got to be a T body. That again. So your T-body, table row, and 2 table data cells. All right, so that's okay. That's okay at the moment, but let's look at the actual power of this as well. So first of all, let's go to the styling. So in the table, I've got a table block. In the table block, I've got style there, which is doing a table block. We've got to select it. So what I've told it to do is a standard HTML border collapse for the table, because we don't want the cell spacing or cell pad spacing between the borders. And there's no rule in the Bricks UI for that. So we target the root element on the table. And I've also told it that I want to target the every even TR. And I want to set the background to black with a opacity of 0.15. Okay, so that's going to put a transparent black background on every even row, so each one after this. So that's the only thing I've done on that style. The table head, I don't think I've done anything. Yes, I have. In the typography, I've told it that I want to align the text to the left by default. TH is going to align the text in the center here. So what we want to do is on that T head, we want to align everything back to the left. And our color for our font, we've set to white. And our background, we've set to that color there. So I can make that a purple color if I want from there. So you can see we're using our BEM classes created in Bricks to style up this table. Okay, make it a black table. There we go. We'll come back to our primary color. Our secondary color. All right, so there's our styling there. T-body, we don't have any styling on that. On my TDs, I've got 1 REM padding. So if I want that to be tighter, I'll just link that and I'll make that 0.5. We'll just watch the table. So now I've got a 0.5 REM padding on there, which is out of alignment with my header. So let's go back to my THs, my table box TH, and I'm going to set that to 0.50. And now our headers have got a 0.5 REM and our table data cells have got 0.5 REM. So again, we're not having to go into a code manager. We're not going to HTML. We're doing this all with the Bricks UI, which is just brilliant. Okay, so that's the first thing, is just styling it with BEM. Unbelievably good. All right, now here's the next thing that you're going to be just blown away with. So I've created a table. Let's say I want to create a table with a list of all of the posts that I've got through FakerPress and just the expert. And I want these to link to the actual posts. You don't need any plugins or any additional code to make this work. This is just pure Bricks. So let's go into the table row for that table. And we're going to make that a query loop. And we're going to leave everything on default posts and posts. Post type of posts, and leave everything as its default on that. Can you? No, it looks like you have to select it before it actually works. So we're going to make that TR a query loop. And then we need to do there. And for these names here, we're going to, instead of using the name, we're going to link to the dynamic data, which would be the post title, and we're going to link to an dynamic data URL, which is the post link. Okay, and then in the excerpt, we're going to link to the excerpt, and that is done. Save that. For some reason it's not showing up in the editor here. It normally does. I'm not sure what's going on there. Let's have a look on live. And there we go. There's our list of 10 posts. And we've got the name on the left, exit on the right, and the name is a link. So I'm just going to do some styling here. So we can see that we've got all of these sitting in the center. Let's go back to our builder. and we pick our link, so our TDs. And what do we want to do? We want to align everything to the top. CSS, we're going to target the root. And do a V vertical line. See what that looks like. So save that. There we go. Now we've got all of our stuff in all our titles in the left column, all vertically aligned. So a few things to point out here is that we've got a list here of our posts with links to the list simply by using the Bricks UI with no additional plugins, no additional code. It's fully stylable using our BEM classes that we've created. Don't have to be BEM classes, you can do that individually as well. And we've also got a table here which we've created and doing the same thing. And I'm looking at this. If we look at the actual HTML for it, it's just a straight HTML table. So no additional wrappers or classes or anything else. It's just straight HTML table. So fantastic. All right, now I'm going to look at this table and go, okay, now one thing I'm not really getting here is my TDs. I think those headings are too big. So I'm wondering if I can override that with my typography and set my font size to 1 REM. Let's try that. Let's change it there. My TDs. There we go. We've dropped our font size to 1 REM. So yeah, I'm really impressed by this. I think it's fantastic. The fact that you can turn anything into a loop. So you can create any dynamic table, dynamic list, dynamic gallery, anything you like, without actually having to have widgets or plugins or whatever to do it. All you need to do is create the right structure using the div element, changing what the div element actually puts on the DOM as the tag, and then styling it up. Unbelievably powerful and good. So hopefully that makes sense. It wasn't too much of a waffle for you. But if you like this kind of thing, let me know, subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you.